Well, I'll just say a little bit again about right attitudes. I've seen over the years, and I've had a few years on the spiritual path, and I've got the opportunity to observe many, many people following the spiritual path. And I'm sorry to say, many, many more people leave the spiritual path. It's not an easy thing to come onto a serious commitment to seeking God and to stay with it over the course of a lifetime. There are so many things that pull people away. And I think we all know this. We all see in ourselves that it just desires and attachments and restlessness and discouragements, all these things come, and they very easily can distract people, discourage them, and pull them away. But the thing that I have seen that really is the biggest deal breaker of all is not developing right attitudes. And so this really is truly essential to work on developing these attitudes. And the two we're talking about tonight are two of the most important. And this is generosity or giving, and also gratitude. And Vineet will talk more about gratitude. I'll talk more about generosity and giving. In the Bible, Christ says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." And this is one of the central truths of the spiritual path and the spiritual life. It's a strange thing because when we come onto the path, we're sort of tricked because we learn meditation and we learn these practices because we're suffering and we're seeking and looking for some answer to our problems, and we've tried everything, and we come to find that yes, meditation, devotion of spiritual life, it fulfills us. It kind of solves our problems. And God tricks us because it's about what we're getting in the beginning. But at a certain point, you learn that it's more about what you're giving. And at a certain point, we have to learn that in order to be like God and divine, which is really, this is the path to God, is divine union, merging with the divine, that you have to develop divine qualities that are like the saints, the masters, like Divine Mother, like the Heavenly Father. And one of them is this sense of just giving unconditionally, giving unconditional love, generosity, kindness to others, but especially to God. I'll read something Swami Kriyanandaji wrote about this. He said, "When we give from our hearts to others, the very gestures that often accompany that giving, and also our energy flow, are outward and self-expansive. Giving to others is blessed because it brings us more bliss. That is to say, it makes us happier, for it expands our self-identity to include in our own well-being the well-being of others." And then he says there's, however, another aspect to giving also. When we give of ourselves outwardly to others, we expand our self-identity, but that act alone can't altogether release us from identity with the ego. To free ourselves completely from ego involvement, we must give also and primarily upwards to God rather than only outward to others. And so we can't only give upward to God. We can if you really are doing that. But giving outward to others, especially to God and others, it's sort of as a reality check. And you see with the saints, the great saints and masters, it's about how much they gave, how much they give of their lives, of their every part of their being to others, really. And that's really what inspires us, because it is a divine quality, and it is something that it's essential to develop. So Vineet will talk about gratitude here, and then I'll touch a little bit later on another aspect of giving and generosity.
Thank you, Devashiji, for sharing, and also about I was grateful because my topic is on gratitude. I should say I was grateful for the chant, and it really, at least in my heart, it kindles what comes out of this attitude of great generosity and gratitude. Before we start on either of those topics, I mean, before I start sharing, wanted to read something from this book, God Alone. And something which Sister Gyanamata speaks about right attitude, just how significant these attitudes are, which we are working upon. And I'm just going to read a few lines from a letter she wrote. It says, Dear Blank, so it's most likely to one of her sister disciples. And it's from 1940, not too long ago, but it's interesting that how these timeless truths which held true then also hold true now. And let's see, what does Sister Gyanamata say to us through this letter. If I were to give you the gift that I would like best of all to offer you, it would be the right attitude toward God and Guru, toward life, toward your work, toward the others of your group. But the best gifts cannot be purchased and given. The gifts and graces of the soul must be acquired by patient daily practice. All will surely be yours in time, for if you do not obtain them in the position to which God has called you, where in all the world are they to be found? So, like Sister Gyanamata says, the one gift, if she would like to give best, is right attitude. And now coming to the attitude of gratitude, I was just a funny side story. We were just starting the satsang, and Devashiji was chanting, and I have a microphone, as you can see. And I was really just before our class today, I was really trying to tune in to gratitude. How no matter what comes into life, I'm going to be grateful for it, and no matter what it is, what the situation is, no problem. I am grateful. Whatever comes of itself, let it come, as Paramahansa Yogananda ji said. And as soon as Devashiji started chanting, I'll try to show you this. There's this little device which is connected, and it started blinking because the batteries went dead almost. And on a regular day, if I wasn't really consciously trying to tune into this, I would have been like, oh no, the class has started, now I have to run around and do this and do that. Okay, fine. I was like, no, I'm grateful for this. And whatever comes of itself, let it come. Let's see what Divine Mother has in plan. And it was just a very little thing, but it is little things in life which can take us from our center to way off. And I said, okay, fine. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be calm. Just quietly change the batteries. And trust me, I can become very, very anxious about little things. And I was just glad. I was just enjoying the chanting and went on and on. And so the next time, whenever you see even a little thing in your life, like this was a little thing, but like Paramahansa Yogananda ji said, take care of the minutes. And I hope I'm quoting him right, take care of the minutes and the incarnations will take care of themselves, or perhaps years. But sure, incarnations will take care of themselves. And similarly, take care of the little moments. Are we going to give of ourselves, like Devashiji was saying, whenever something happens in our lives? And also gratitude for the difficulties which we face in our life. In this very book, there is a whole section of letters from Sister Gyanamata, which is they have titled it as Gratitude to God and Gurus. And it's very interesting. If and she wrote many, many, many letters to Paramahansa Yogananda ji, expressing her gratitude for the life she had, for the blessing she had of a true guru, of his presence in her life. And you see, letter after letter, she's just expressing gratitude for this thing and for that thing. And if you really look into her life, and if you really find out the details of her life, she was very sick. She had so much physical suffering. There was, if not anything, she surely had a good list or bucket list to complain from if one were to look for excuses that this is not right in my life. But still, you find letter after letter she writes to Paramahansa Yogananda ji, just expressing her gratitude. And I thought, wow, I mean, if she can be grateful with everything that happened in her life, I can certainly be grateful if this microphone batteries are not working, or in the morning my alarm didn't go off, or a phone network is not working, or the internet is not working, or this email didn't go through, or the other person did not understand me, or my food did not get delivered on time, or there was less salt or more salt in my food. I mean, there's endless list to be complaining about. But then, if we look at the bigger picture, all the saints are always grateful for God, what God has given them. And you will also find, and I was reflecting on this myself, we talk about, whatever karma we have, when we are grateful about it and when we can accept it, we have a greater opportunity from learning from them and going forward. And similarly, Swami Kriyananda ji once in his life, he went through an extremely difficult situation, which in some ways he might even say as one of the most difficult tests of his life. And he was suffering, of course, and I don't know if he wrote to Anand Mahima, but I'm certain Anand Mahima heard about it, and most likely he wrote to her about this. And the reply he got from Anand Mahima was, take it as your guru's blessing. How do you take anything as your guru's blessing when it causes you so much suffering? It causes you so much pain. And Swamiji thought, this is one thing I just cannot take as my guru's suffering. I don't know how to do that. But then guess what? Years later, he saw that that very karma, that very suffering or difficulty at that point of time helped him to accomplish his guru's mission and do exactly what his guru told him to do, and eventually at the end fulfill the real true mission of all of our lives and his life also, to be one with God, which Paramahansa Yogananda told him would be what he will achieve at the end of his life. So, well, yes, tests are difficult. And I thought, okay, fine, let me also reflect back and see if there is anything which, in the given moment, I thought it was causing me suffering, it was causing me pain. And maybe it was 10 years back. But when I look back at that, am I able to see that it helped me in my life? Am I able to see that it caused something positive in my life? And guess what? I was surprised. There were a few incidents in my life which actually helped me to grow forward in my own understanding. And not only that, some of those incidents actually slowly but gradually got me on the spiritual path. Now, isn't that wonderful? Sometimes we think of karma as something which brings us deep suffering, and which is true. I'm not trying to make light of it. But Swami Kriyanandaji made it very simple when I heard him once share about good karma and bad karma. Anything which brings us closer towards God is good karma, and anything that takes us away from God is bad karma. And sometimes we may think it is good karma and we become complacent and we just start having that good feeling, and maybe we are not on our toes. And guess what happens then? Karma catches up, Maya catches up, and then boom, we just go off track. But many times it is actually not bad karma, it is difficult karma, you can say, which keeps us on our vigil that, okay, Divine Mother. I mean, let's face it, I'll say truthfully about myself that if everything was smooth, if everything was really good, I don't know if I would pray so hardly to Divine Mother, as against when things are sometimes really difficult and I'm like, Divine Mother, what is happening? Maybe I'm even on my knees sometimes, but then it's important, and she really gets her attention. And of course, she's not seeking my attention, but at least it helps me to get my attention towards her. And that is where gratitude towards anything and everything that comes in our life is extremely, extremely important. Now, this is one thing. And the other thing I wanted to speak about from the perspective of karma, um, it may sound a little superficial, but it's actually very important. Well, let me read it actually first. It is from Affirmations from Self Healing by Swami Kriyananda ji. And he talks about gratitude. I'll read a few lines. He says, gratitude is a way of returning energy for energy received. Only a thief takes without paying for what he gets, and one who accepts a kindness without returning gratitude, as though the kindness were his by right, demeans both the giver and himself. And this is a very beautiful writing. He goes on to say many, many things, and I would encourage you to read that yourself. But when we don't express gratitude or appreciation for what people give us and accept that, of course, I mean, if a shopkeeper is giving me good bread and I give him money, I mean, of course, it's mine by right. And why do I have to be grateful about anything? I mean, it's his job. He should be doing that. And similarly, if someone delivers a parcel to me and he puts all the energy and comes and gives to me. Of course, I mean, it's his job. He gets paid for that. But many times we miss the point of appreciating people. And it kind of, I have, not we, but at least I have thought the spiritual path is, we have to renounce the ego. It's all about giving up the ego. It's about, me offering my ego to God. And all this ego starts ending up being I, and my ego. What about my spiritual path and my offering to Divine Mother and my just giving up all to God and my surrender? And I don't know if you can hear the number of my's that came in there, but it ends up being this little me and little I. And it's good sometimes to express appreciation to people and giving that energy back to them. And sometimes it can happen that, why do I have to express gratitude to them? There's no need for that. But there was a story in Swami Kriyanandaji's life, which he shares that once he had a brother monk whom he held in high regard when he lived at the monastery in his guru's ashram. But he never expressed his gratitude. He never shared his gratitude about him. And as a result, this brother monk of his ended up thinking that he held down, Swami Kriyanandaji held down him in contempt, as if he wasn't spiritual enough or he wasn't good enough. And it was never the case. Swami Kriyananda always thought that he was a great soul. But since Swamiji did not express, he ended up thinking that Swamiji didn't think highly of him. Not only this, there's a extension to the story that once Swamiji shared about this person to his sister. And when the sister, and he spoke very highly of her brother, and when Swamiji, when her sister spoke to this brother monk, and he was just surprised that, did he speak so highly of me? And then he said, wait a second, repeat the whole thing, but this time slowly, because he really wanted to hear it very clearly that this person really appreciated me. So it's very important to appreciate people, appreciate each other, because how important it is when kindness is returned with kindness. And not only that, when someone appreciates us, let's say for wearing good clothes or for something good you have done, don't negate it by saying, oh, that's fine. It's, or sometimes, when you compliment people for clothes, they'll be like, oh, these rags, these ugly clothes. And Swamiji says that, not only are you demeaning what you're wearing or whatever, but you're also demeaning the other person's taste by doing so. The other better compliment would be, oh yeah, what a beautiful dress, or just, and reflect it back to God. Or let's say you shared something which the other person appreciated, instead of saying, oh no, nothing, I don't know, all I was talking was garbage. Well, if you were talking garbage, why at all talk about it at all? But instead say, God is the doer, and it was He who shared, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And the more we appreciate, the more there is an exchange of energy, and something beautiful happens. I would just like to end with something, and I would like to pass on to Devarshiji, is as monks, we have lived in many houses and we have shifted from one place to another. First, we were in Pune, then we were in Khandala for a few years, and then now we are in Chandigarh. And of course, all the places, all the owners we have had, the landlords we have had, they've always appreciated for our presence there. And you might see it as, yeah, okay, fine, it was just rent we were paying, but we had a relationship with them. And the most recent one, when we lived in Khandala, where our monastery was earlier, when we left, I overheard a conversation between the owner and the caretakers of the property who were taking care of the property. And the owners told the caretakers that, it's very hard to get, tenants like this. We don't know if we will ever find tenants this good. And the caretakers said, it's very hard to find bosses who are so generous and good. And we don't know if we'll ever find bosses like this. And it was nice to see some mutual appreciation. And of course, I was not feeling proud about it, but more in terms of these teachings, and how it was never a relationship of I give you this and you give me that, but rather appreciation for each other and generosity for what one does for another. So with that, I would like to pass on to Devashiji to share more.
Gratitude in a sense is giving. So thank you, Vineet, for sharing that. because we give gratitude, and that's how we even say those words sometimes. And by giving gratitude, by giving kindness, by giving all of these things, we dissolve the ego. And this is so very important. I've seen this with, like I was saying earlier, people who only think, okay, it's only between me and God, and other people can sit off to the side. I don't need that, and they're a distraction. I used to think that when I was very, very young and coming onto the spiritual path, that people were a distraction, and I've learned just the opposite. But what I've seen is that it's very important to be conscious about giving to others and giving gratitude, and using that momentum and that flow of kindness and energy from ourself, that expansion, and then taking that and offering it to God. I've seen with some monks, thankfully not Ananda monks, but I've seen other monks. I visited other monasteries at times, and sometimes monks can get so, and this touches on something Vineet said, so caught up in finding God for myself, myself, for me, that it actually becomes contractive. And I've seen this happen. And so this is why it's very important also just to give gratitude, give appreciation, give kindness, especially to those around us. Swamiji was very keen on this idea in marriage, for example, that we start to take people for granted who are around us all the time, and we don't express that appreciation. I think that's probably why Swamiji didn't express appreciation to this fellow monk, perhaps. Maybe there was another reason. So take some time in the next few days to express gratitude towards others, and to express kindness and giving towards others in different ways than we're used to. And also find a way to learn this whole idea of it's more blessed to give than receive. In our Ananda schools at Ananda Village, they did a homework assignment for the children. And it was very interesting because they asked the children to do some form of what they called secret service. And they had to serve someone, but secretly. They had to do an act of kindness or giving to a neighbor or to someone in their family, but very secretly, and no one could ever find out, and they could never say it ever, and they could never acknowledge it. And the lesson that came from it was just this whole idea of that we feel bliss when we give. Because children, when we're trying to train them in how to give, and oh please, it's so nice to share with your sister, oh that was so good, and we praise them, and sometimes they might think it's about the praise that comes when you give and you're generous. And so this secret service, children realize that, oh, I'm getting no praise, no one's knowing. They couldn't even tell their teacher, I don't think, what it was they did. They just had to do something. And they realized that, oh, I feel joy purely in the act of giving, without any other reference point of acknowledgement, praise, someone thanking me, someone seeing me do it. It just feels joyful to give and to expand and to express even secret kindness. So this week, try to do this. Express more gratitude, make gratitude a practice, give gratitude to God, thank you, Lord, in prayer and meditation, but also to express gratitude and kindness and appreciation to those around you who perhaps you're taking for granted. And then finally, try to find some way of secret service, just for fun, just proof of concept, and just to remind us again this very, very important and deep truth that indeed it is more blessed to give than receive. So I think I'll end with just something that Swamiji says. He says, generosity means, above all, recognizing that everything we have and are belongs to God alone and is His to dispose of where He will. And so remember, everything is God's. In a way, we can't give anything because it all belongs to God. But by giving, by expanding and sharing it with others, our own consciousness, our own self-identity expands and grows until this is the way to infinite cosmic consciousness. We start where we are right now and we expand it step by step, with the people around us, with the giving to others and to God. And that is the way. Swami, our master called it the social way to cosmic consciousness. I always laughed at the way he said that, the social way to cosmic consciousness, but this is what he was talking about. This idea of giving love, kindness, service, gratitude, all these different ways of giving to others is a way to find God, because it dissolves the ego, especially when we get it beyond this personal relationship to others and we are really giving to the God in others, God giving to God. And that's when we really see that this is all Divine Mother's children. She's wanting all her children to give to each other, to share with each other, to express divine love to each other. And that pleases her, but more importantly, we feel more blessed giving than receiving. So this is our homework assignment this week. Give gratitude, do some secret service, express appreciation in ways that perhaps we've gotten out of the habit of doing it. So thank you for joining us. It's been a joy sharing. Thank you, Vineet.